Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Hey, Kama. How are you? Hello, hello. Hey, Kia. How y'all doing? How my fellas doing? Please send my love to the family. Hello, hello. How y'all doing? Y'all come on in. Do me a favor. Please share this and like it and all that other good stuff. We're going to get on tonight, have a little heart talk, little conversation. How's everybody doing? Hey, Jennifer. How you and the family doing? Hey, Toya. You ready for tomorrow night, girl? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Come on in. Do me a favor and share this broadcast with anybody you think could benefit from it. Tonight we're going to have a little Q&A session. So if you have comments or questions or anything that you would like to chat with me about tonight, please, please, please write it in the comments. Let's see. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? We get ready to get started. Hello, Katie. How you doing? How is everybody's Saturday going? Everybody's enjoying themselves. Did you get your days mixed up yet? Hey, Toya. How you doing, sis? How's everybody doing? It is so good to see you guys. Thank y'all so much for coming on and joining me tonight. Gonna have a little bit of heart talk. I really enjoyed my Instagram live. Do me a favor, if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me at The Heart Connections. I'll update the comments in here so you can have that link too. But if you're on Instagram, make sure you follow me at The Heart Connections. And I just did a Q&A over there, and I decided, let me just hop on Facebook, come tell everybody hi, check the pulse, see how everybody is doing. Hey girl, how are you? And I just had a few questions that came up on Instagram that I thought would be very fitting for Facebook. And I just also wanted to just check in and see how you guys are doing. For those of you, some of you know me, some of you don't. This is Adelaide Brown, your heart coach. And as a heart coach, I work with individuals to confront matters of the heart so that they can live authentically on purpose. What are matters of the heart? Matters of the heart are mental, emotional, spiritual conflicts and traumas and issues that are holding us back from living our lives to our fullest potential. And it is very important that we take the time to confront these matters of the heart. And being a heart coach, especially in the season that we're in right now, in our world, in our country, in our city, in our homes, I feel like it is very important for us to be very real about where we are, to tell ourselves the truth, even if it doesn't feel good, even if it hurts, even if it's uncomfortable. And that is why I'm here to encourage you and support you through that process. I truly believe in my heart that God has allowed this time and space for the world to do some healing, to do some resetting, to do some new things, to break those normal routines and habits that we have. And for many of us, those routines and habits are dysfunctional, and we've normalized the dysfunction in our lives. And it's time for us to confront the things that are holding us back. We have to be willing to just deal with ourselves. And I think a lot of times we focus so much on how difficult it is to deal with other people and don't realize that the difficulty we have with others is usually a mirror that's reflecting how we truly feel about ourselves on the inside. So, if you're having struggles in a relationship right now, if you're having issues with trusting yourself or believing in yourself, now is the time for you to work on that. Now is the time for you to confront those issues in your life. And you're not doing anyone any favors by acting like they don't exist. Like, you're not doing anyone any favors by trying to mask and cover up, right? Many of us have made a habit of staying busy in life, working a lot, staying involved in a lot of extracurricular activities because they really give us an excuse not to deal with ourselves, right? If you're someone who, and I'm saying it for the people who do good things, right? So if you're someone who is always volunteering to help other people and always putting yourself out there to help other people, hey Alex, um, sometimes I look at that and I'm like, what is this person running from? Like, what are they trying to avoid? What are they, what are the things that are going on in their lives that they don't want to deal with, right? Many of us will save other people because deep down inside, we want somebody to save us, right? So tonight, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And it was a question that came up on Instagram Live that I want to start with. I have a few other questions that were given to me that I'm going to answer on live. So if you're someone who asked those questions, you're going to get your questions answered now. And if not, I truly believe that more than one person is dealing with a lot of these things. So I feel like answering these questions are very fitting. So one of the questions that I got, being a heart coach and working with individuals to confront matters of the heart. And like I said, matters of the heart are those difficult things, those issues in our lives that cause shame, guilt, disappointment. When you think about things in your past and you experience, hey Miss Liz, how you doing? When you think about things in your past where you may have experienced neglect, abuse, abandonment, maybe you were violated at some point in time in your life. There's so many different ways that we can experience that. And a lot of times we don't know how to deal with that. So we just don't deal with it, right? We just stuff it down and we try to make ourselves forget. But the problem with trying to make ourselves forget is that our body never forgets. Our soul and our minds, it never forgets. You cannot unlearn something. You can't unsee something. You can unlearn to relearn, but you can never unsee or unhear something. So once someone has said something to you, once someone has done something to you, once you've seen something, you can't go back and erase that. Now you can deal with it, but you can't erase it. And a lot of us have seen and experienced things and heard things that were hurtful, that were discouraging. And we experience those things at a young age a lot of times. And therefore, our little minds did not know how to handle that stuff, right? And so many of us in our adult lives right now are dealing with the residue of those things that happened to us in the past, right? When we think about it like a wound, right? I use this example. My grandmother, when I remember falling one time and hurting myself real bad outside when I was little, and my grandmother was like, come on, I need to clean it. And I didn't want her to clean it because I knew once she put that peroxide on it, it was going to sting, it was going to burn. But I also knew that she needed to do that in order for that wound to heal. Now, I could have avoided her and not allowed her to clean it, but what was going to happen to the wound if I did that? What happens to wounds that you don't clean? They get infected, right? Sometimes they spread, right? And that is something that is happening in our lives, and for many of us it has happened. So you experienced a wound at a young age that went unaddressed. It wasn't cleansed, it was not dealt with, it wasn't properly covered or bandaged or taken care of, and because of that an infection came about. So maybe you have a personality issue. Maybe you have trust issues. Maybe you have problems with money. Maybe you deal with promiscuity. Maybe you have an addiction. Maybe you deal with jealousy and envy and it's consuming. Maybe you're struggling with anxiety. And I'm not trying to diagnose anyone, but what I am saying is that many of these things that we deal with in our lives are a direct representation of wounds that were not properly dealt with and were not properly cleansed and did not properly heal. And therefore, it has altered the way that we're showing up right now in our lives, right? All right, Miss Liz. I know that's right. Y'all, do me a favor. Share this because I can assure you somebody on your page needs to see this video. Somebody needs to be set free. And with tomorrow being Easter, Jesus rose up out that grave, and it's time for us to rise up out the graves of pain and shame and hurt that so many of us have been stuck in, that so many of us have been held captive to, and it's time for us to come out, right? So one of the questions that came up on Instagram Live was, well, what do I do? How do I heal if I don't want to address the pain? And I feel like that is very fitting for where we are right now, because many of us are like that. I can tell you, I've had so many clients, they'll come in, I know my issues. I have trust issues, or I'm insecure. I feel really intimidated when I'm around certain people, or I'm having trouble in my relationship, right? I'm having trouble being faithful. I'm having trouble trusting someone. I'm having trouble with communication. That's usually always rooted in something, right? And I just wanted to answer that for somebody out there, because you're like, I'm ready to get off quarantine. I'm ready to get out of the house. You're not going to get out of the house, and you're not going to get off quarantine until you're ready to deal with your pain, until you're ready to confront the issues that have been holding you back. And I just need to let you know, because some of you think that you can pray, you can fast, you can worship, and you can do all of that thing. Hey, Ashley, how you doing, beautiful? Yes, you can do all of that stuff, and it does help. But it does not negate or erase the fact that you're going to have to confront the pain. So many times people use their faith to run from pain and to hide from it, versus using their faith to confront the things in their lives that have been hurting them and holding them back, right? So one of the questions that I got was, what do you do if you have pain and you want to heal, but you don't want to confront it? You have to confront it. You have to clean the wound. When you hurt yourself or you get a cut or whatever, you have to address it. Certain wounds need proper dressing. Some things need to air out, where some things need to be covered up, right? And it's the same thing in our lives. And I just wanted to stop by tonight and just encourage you to stop running. Because the more you run, the longer we're going to be on punishment. The longer we're going to be stuck in the house. Hey, Baba, let go of holding yourself hostage. Exactly. But when we say that, some people will say, well, I'm not holding myself hostage. I love myself. I'm being good to myself. Hey, Pam Pam. You are holding yourself hostage. But many of us are oblivious to that. We have been so caught up in our pain and our hurt and our brokenness, we don't even realize how hostage we are. Because many of us, it's not just you. Your whole family is like that. It's like a family pathology. Certain people are known for being sarcastic. Certain people are known for being rowdy. Certain people are known for being passive aggressive. Certain people are known for being promiscuous. Certain people are known for being addictive. Certain people are known for being workaholics. And I am just encouraging you to start telling yourself the truth. Huh? Okay. Well, I'll be finished in a second, okay? And you find something in there. You find it. Y'all, welcome to family life. You sure can. Welcome to quarantine life. But now is the time to deal with it, right? And I just wanted to stop by tonight because a lot of people don't even realize that they're dealing with these issues. Off topic, but pretty teeth. Oh, thank you, sweetie. Thank you, Tiny. Yeah, so that was one question that came up. The question was, I'm proud of you. I love you, Corey. Thank you. Free yourself from destruction. Yes, Miss Liz. Yes, absolutely. So that was one big question that I really, really, really wanted to address, because being a heart coach, I am constantly confronted with people telling me it's nothing wrong with me. Just the fact that you saying that, I know something is wrong with you. Because anybody who's on a journey to healing, you know, we all have something to work through. None of us are without fault. None of us are without sin. All of us have some type of weakness or ism or schism that we're working through, right? The problem is, so many of us, it hurts so bad to revisit those areas. We suffer in silence. And that's why I put that post up yesterday. I said, many of us have accepted Christ and we know we're going to heaven, but because we won't heal, we're choosing to live life in hell. Anytime you don't confront your pain, you're choosing to live your life in hell. And I just want to stop by tonight and tell you that you're better than that. And you don't have to do that, right? God has more in store for you, right? So that was one question I wanted to address. I got another question. Was how do you deal with, a difficult baby mama or baby daddy? Hey, Shauna, how you doing? And or children's father or children's mother, right? But in layman's terms, the way we say it, baby mama, baby daddy. I know it doesn't sound good, but it is what it is. And I just wanted to address that because a lot of us have dealt with situations or are dealing with situations where you have a child with someone that you just cannot get along with. But I just want to challenge you and just tell you that that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable because your child deserves more, right? And many of us don't realize how broken we are until we get out of dysfunctional relationships and look back at that situation or look back at that person and realize that it takes two to tango. And I know a lot of us will say, girl, you don't know my baby daddy, or boy, you don't know my baby mom. But what I will tell you is it was something that caused you to connect with that person, even if it was just for that one time, right? And unless it was a situation where you find yourself a parent and it was against your consent, and I'm not being insensitive, but outside of that, you have to own up to the fact that you were in a place. Hey, Aunt Steph, how you doing? You have to own up to a place that, yes, you were in a place to even connect with that person, to even be on one page with that person. And a lot of times it's hard for us to deal with them because we don't deal with the shame and the embarrassment that, man, I was down bad, or man, I don't know how I stayed in that relationship. Let's deal with that. Back to dealing with the wounds. You have to deal with, well, what caused me to even get with that person from the start? What state of mind was I in? What was I thinking about? What type of things was I into at that time that caused me to be able to, quote unquote, be equally yoked with that person, or to have enough in common to produce another life? I think sometimes when people get difficult to deal with, we want to dismiss them and everything that's associated with them. But we can't do that when we have children with them. So I will say to you fellas, yes, and I know some ladies might not like this, but I'm just going to keep it real. Yes, some of us are very petty. And when the relationship is over, we want to hold that child against you. We want to look at that child and say, if you're not going to be with me, then you're not going to see my child. That is dead wrong. And we shouldn't do that. But you cannot just stop there and say, well, she's not going to let me see my child. No. And some women are going through the same thing. What I'm saying is you're going to have to try harder for your child. You're going to have to fight through that. So if that means you're going to have to bring in some type of mediation, if that means you're going to have to save up and get an attorney, if that means you're going to have to involve some trusted individuals, get therapy, get counseling, but you're going to have to go that extra mile to make sure that you have that relationship with your child. For fathers, if the child isn't in your life. If for mothers, if the child is with the father. Because I know some men like that. I know men who have their children and they're doing the same thing to the mom. The mom doesn't want to be with them, so they use that against them. What I'm saying is we can't stop there. We have to push through that, right? And I know when I found myself in a situation similar to that, I had to deal with my daddy issues. I had daddy issues. And the daddy issues that I had growing up without my father in my life had everything to do with how hard it was for me to deal with the parenting, the co-parenting situation that I had going on at the time. Right? Because people say, well, I only have to deal with this for 18 years. The devil is a liar. You're going to have to deal with that as long as this child is living, and even after that. Because you have this connection with that person. Right? So I just want to encourage you. A lot of y'all on quarantine, it's a little awkward right now trying to deal with, co-parenting, especially when a lot of people are afraid. You might not trust that person's other person in their life. You don't want your child around them. You should have thought about that before you had a baby with that person. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean your child has to fall in that particular just because you don't like something doesn't mean your child has to fall in that particular bracket, right? Y'all might have had a relationship that failed. That was a romantic relationship. This parent and child relationship is a completely different type of relationship, and you're going to have to put the work in to make sure that that works. No, you cannot control everybody else. No, you cannot make that person do anything. But truth be told, a lot of us don't try hard enough to make it work for our children, because the truth of the matter is we're working through our own pain, things that we didn't resolve. And when we find ourselves in these situations again, it's hurtful. It's shameful for a lot of us. It brings on a lot of guilt. It brings back, it's like a trigger. It stirs up things enough that we don't want to deal with. And many of us aren't even brave enough to confront that. So we just put it all on that child's parent. They're just the worst thing in the world. But they weren't the worst thing when you were in the process of making that child. So we have to be willing to pray and ask God for guidance. That would be the first thing I would say. And then just lock your heels in and realize that you can't just give up. Okay, come back, Melissa. Just lock your heels in and just realize that you can't give up. Like you were in love with that person enough to make a baby with them. Now you're going to have to figure out a way to make this thing work for your child the best you can. Make sure that if that other person isn't doing what they're doing, you're not doing anything to hinder that. That you're not being petty and messy, because exactly, you can only fix, manage, and control yourself. You're not being petty and messy, and your child is the person that's suffering for it, right? So that's one question that we got. Now remember, if you guys have any questions for me, you can type it down there. I will be doing more Q&A sessions. So some people might not want to put it in there, but you can also inbox me. And if you like to talk more intimately about this, there's a link in the comments where you can sign up for a heart coaching session. So I just want to put that out there, because I know some people might be hearing this stuff and you're like, I need to call you. I need help with this. And I'm letting you know, I got you. All right. Another question that came up that I want to address is, what do you do if you're in a relationship and you're constantly being accused of cheating? Especially a marriage. That came up on Instagram, and I thought it was very pressing to bring that up on Facebook. What do you do if you're in a relationship and you're constantly being accused of cheating? Well, one of the things that I would first like to highlight is, many times we individuals, we people, us human beings, right? Many times we accuse others of things that we're dealing with within ourselves. Right? So if you're feeling insecure or not feeling confident within yourself, especially if you're in a relationship, sometimes if you're not loving yourself enough, you can't understand why somebody else would love you, right? If you're not caring about yourself enough, you don't understand why somebody else would care about you. And if you're not honoring yourself in the way you're living or the way you're showing up, you can't understand why somebody else would do that for you. And so sometimes in situations, we experience outwardly what we're feeling about ourselves on the inside. No, I am not saying that you're the reason that your spouse or significant other, you're the only reason that your spouse or significant other is accusing you of that. But I would challenge you to say, if you would take a closer look, do you have some behavior that's going on that I'm not saying like, like an abuser. Like if you're in an abusive relationship and the person is like, well, I abuse you because you made me upset, or I abuse you because you made me insecure. No, nobody can make you insecure. So let me be clear on that. So if I'm confusing you, let me know. I just want to highlight that, because a lot of times in abusive relationships, people accuse and accuse. And if you're in an abusive relationship, I'm saying get out. I'm saying get out. You don't stay there. You don't try to make it work for the kids or anything, or maybe that person might change. Separation, a lot of times, a distance is what you need when you're dealing with that. But I'm just talking about, some of us have a history of dysfunctional relationships. Many of us grew up watching our parents be in dysfunctional relationships. So sometimes it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't feel natural until it's dysfunctional. For many people, it's like that. So I'm saying, make sure that you're not desiring a certain type of attention or a certain type of response from your spouse. And even though you don't like them accusing you, sometimes people like the attention they get. Sometimes people like people, their significant other, they get power in knowing that that other person is feeling insecure or feeling unworthy or feeling doubtful, right? Some people think that that's cool. And so I just wanted to highlight that tonight and just get out immediately, be in love with God first, then yourself, and you'll be able to love others. Absolutely. Absolutely. But a lot of people don't, a lot of people just aren't valuing themselves enough. So, one of the biggest things that I would say, like Ms. Liz just said, get out immediately, be in love with God first. Some people don't understand what it means to be in love with God first because many of us associate our relationship with God how we associate our relationships with our fathers. And if you didn't have a good relationship with your father, a lot of times it's really hard for you to see God from the perspective that from every perspective you need to see him from. So if you didn't have a loving, nurturing relationship from your father, a lot of times you see God as just this God who just rains down judgment and just treats you're going to hell if you do anything bad, and there's no grace and there's no compassion and there's no support and love. And God is a loving father. He's a gracious father. He's a patient father. And for those of us who have had father wounds, sometimes it's really hard to experience God like that. The only way we can see him is from a negative perspective, or the only way we can see him is from a perspective like I'm bad and I need to do something good enough to make God love me. And a lot of times when we feel like that on a subconscious level, that shows up in our relationships. We will put for women, we will put our husband in the place of what our fathers didn't do or did do, and then also put them in that space and then kind of compare them with God. And many times we don't even realize we're doing that. It's a subconscious thing. So what I'm saying is, if you're someone that's in a relationship and it's a lot of dysfunction and y'all are dealing with infidelity, especially in your marriage, or the accusations, the lack of trust, one, I encourage you to pray and seek God for guidance. Number two, get therapy, get some type of counseling so that you can work through those things, right? So that you can confront those issues that are holding you back, because almost always it's something that you don't even realize that is driving you. It's some thought, some experience that you had earlier in your life, and because of that, this is why you keep going through what you go through in your relationships, right? So I really wanted to respond to that question, because I know that that's something a lot of people deal with. And it doesn't necessarily have to be cheating. I just know a lot of husbands and wives who are at odds, especially right now with a lot of people being home together. And I just encourage you, it doesn't even have to be your husband or your wife. It could be your child. It could be a family member. It could just be somebody. God is patient, kind, loving, understanding, forgiving, and giving. Absolutely, Miss Liz. But a lot of people don't see God like that. A lot of people don't see God like that. They see God through the eyes of others. They see God through the eyes of people who have accused them, people who have chastised them and didn't do it in love, right? And so we have to be willing to see God from a different perspective, and we have to be willing to deal with our lives and confront. Like I said, we have to be willing to clean those wounds prior to trying to cover them up, prior to trying to move on and get back on with our life. It's just like having surgery and the doctor tells you it might take 12 weeks to heal, but you get back out and go to work the next day. Many of us get hurt like that, and we don't deal with the wounds. We don't even give ourselves enough compassion, and we just go back to work or just try to get back in life and try to act like nothing ever happened. But guess what? Something did happen. And regardless of if you consciously deal with it or not, you're going to deal with it subconsciously. If you have children, trust me, whatever you don't deal with, you will deal with it through your children. Absolutely. Because they are representations of you. They show you parts of yourself that you don't even realize is out there. So I just want to put that out there and give y'all something to think about. Now, we're doing a Q&A session, so if you have any questions or that you would like for me to respond to right now. It does not have to be you. It could be something else that you saw. Maybe it's somebody you know that's going through something and you just maybe want my advice or my opinion so that you can encourage them. Please don't hesitate to put the comments in the box. We'll be on for a little bit more. There was another question that I wanted to address that has come up more than one time. And that question is, how do you deal with church hurt? How do you deal with getting hurt in the church or when church people have done you wrong? How do you deal with that? Well, the first thing you do is you go to God and you pray about it, right? The problem I think with many of us is we are looking for other people to be our agent. It's like our God agent, right? It's like a lot of people don't realize that you can just go to God for yourself and pray and ask for guidance and wisdom and understanding and forgiveness. So what we do is we'll go to church and we're looking for the pastor or the deacon or the mother of the church or whoever, your group leader, to be your end all tell all, to be your intercessor, to bring you before the throne and all of these other things you hear people saying. A lot of times we get hurt in church because God was looking for us to come to him versus running to people and looking for approval from people and looking for people to heal our wounds and looking for people to fix us and do things that only he can do. Right? It's not just church hurt. Sometimes we get hurt by our family. Sometimes we get hurt by friends. And I truly believe that God allows that to happen because he's drawing us back to us. He's saying to him, he's like, look, you put them ahead of me, right? You put them in a situation where you should have came to me first, but you went to that person. And I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have good counsel and you shouldn't have people that you can talk to and you can trust. But one thing you have to understand with this being Easter weekend. Hey, Natalie, how you doing? I just want to shout out Natalie, y'all. Y'all go follow her. She is awesome. She's a licensed therapist and she does other things, but she's definitely a healer. And y'all make sure y'all follow her. And a lot of times God is allowing things to happen in our lives just simply because he's wanting us to come to him. He's wanting us to build a more intimate relationship with him. And like I was telling them on Instagram, when I started reading my Bible for myself and I started praying and talking to God for myself and not necessarily to the laws of the land, be obedient to God laws and obedience. Absolutely. You're welcome, Natalie. No, we want to be obedient to the laws of the land because it's easy for so many of us to perform. One of the things I realized when we put God first in our lives, it's not going to be a popular decision. You're not going to be the one that the crowd is always following, right? That's why the Bible tells us we have to carry our own cross because it's going to feel like you being crucified sometimes. It's going to feel like, it's almost going to feel like death. And like Ms. Liz just said, God is getting our attention now. He is. And that's why I wanted to do this session because I want you to know, like, this is not, when you're not just sitting in the house just waiting for time to pass. God slowed everybody down because he's trying to get our attention. Jesus came to set the captives free. And many of us have been held captive to our insecurities, to our doubts, to our fears, to our worries, to our vanity. Let's be honest. Some of us are more worried about how we look physically than what our hearts look like to God and how we show up to other people. We don't mind, being sarcastic or giving a harsh word to someone. That's okay as long as I look good, as long as I found the right filter when I'm ready to put a picture up. And God is like, no, y'all, I'm tired of this. We're not doing this anymore. And I just really wanted to encourage you in that. Like, I know it's a scary time for a lot of us. So what better time to go to the one who can ease every fear? The Bible tells us that perfect love casts out all fear. The Lord has a perfect love for us. So if you're finding yourself if you're someone that's finding yourself that you're discontented, you're not comfortable, you're finding yourself not being able to sleep at night, you're worried, you're depressed, it's a good chance that God is really like, hey, come to me. I have this for you. Matthew 11 and 28 through 30, he says, come to me, all of you who are weary, and I will give you rest. Yes, Miss Liz, Isaiah 26:20, God told us to stay in the house and shut the door. Yes, he did. He said for a little while, he was going to pass his judgment over. And I know some people, you like, look, I don't go to church. I don't read my Bible. I don't know. Listen, now is not the time to talk about all the things you didn't do and all the things you didn't get right. Let's just focus on where you are now. What can you do now? What can you focus on now? Will you come to him now? When I gave my life to Christ, I think I was high at the time. Like I was not in a good space. I felt like I was losing my mind, and I didn't even cry out to him. I was in such a desperate space. He showed up. Maybe my heart cried out. I didn't even think I was good enough to ask God to help me. I thought I had to clean myself up first before I could get the help that I needed. But boy, was I wrong. Boy, did he show up in a way that I would have never believed. And it's been a journey ever since then. But I was hurt prior to that, right? And so I felt downtrodden. I felt like an outcast. I definitely didn't feel like I could go to anybody in the church because of how I was living my life or the lack thereof. And Jesus showed up for me in my living room. I was by myself. Nobody prayed for me. Nobody did any of that. And I just want to encourage you wherever you are to get right with him, to ask him, what is she talking about? Show that to me in my life. Exactly. Have a talk with Jesus. He will answer. Be still. And a lot of you hear the term be still and you're like, I am being still. It's not just a physical stillness. A lot of us, we never still our minds. We never give our minds a break. From the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we are constantly being stimulated by something outside. Why? Because many of us don't want to deal with what's on the inside. We don't want to deal with that insecurity, that pain, that shame, that guilt, that neglect, that abandonment, right? We don't want to deal with the decisions that we made before. We don't want to deal with the way we backstab that person, the way you might have slept with your friend's man a while back. You're not like that anymore, but you like that now, right? I mean, you're not like that, you're not like that now, but you were back then, right? And a lot of times we don't want to deal with the pain of it, right? So we never deal with it at all. But the problem is if we don't deal with what caused us to get there, guess what's going to happen? It's going to keep happening again. And if it doesn't happen through you, it's going to happen through your bloodline. It's going to show up in some way, shape, or form. And one thing about when they say what goes around comes around, but it always comes back worse, and it usually never comes back the exact way that it went around, right? So you might talk about somebody, but then when it comes back around to you, it can show up in the form of an illness or a sickness. I'm just using this as an example. And God will use these things to get our attention, right? No, God does not cause these things to happen to us. But some things he allows, like what's happening right now. God is not he would not create that type of evil, but he's allowing these things to happen to get our attention, right? We cannot keep doing life the way we've been doing it. And I just want to encourage you because I know doing hard work is not easy. I know that when it's time for you to confront those things that you've been running from, who wants to do that? Somebody that wants to sleep at night. Somebody that wants to be in relationships where they don't feel like they always have to look over their shoulders because they know they can't be trusted, so they don't trust other people. See, a lot of times when people say things like, I don't have no friends, or, I don't know, I don't have all those friends. I'm always looking at them like, the Bible says to be a friend, you must show yourself friendly. So when people go on and on and on about how they don't have any friends, I'm already looking at you a little sideways like, so how are you treating your friends or your so-called friends? How did you get to that point? When did you make that decision that you were just going to roll solo and be by yourself? Because none of us were designed to be like that. None of us are an island. We all need each other to survive. Even you in this house, even with you being in social isolation, you need somebody to deliver your groceries, even if you're not going out to get them yourself. You need somebody to show up in their place to help you be able to stand in your own. And if you're somebody that doesn't have friends, or you just can never get along with anybody else, my next question is, well, what are you hating about yourself? What don't you like about yourself that keeps presenting in your external relationships? Right? So I hope, is this helping y'all? Because I know these questions are coming in, and I know some people, are just coming in. But like I said, these are things that were coming up, things that I wanted to go live and share, because I just really feel like many of us are going through the same things, and we gain strength in being able to work through that together. So the last question, yes, it is perfect. Okay, thanks, love. Thanks, love. Shout out to Latoya. We will be going live with Love in the Dark tomorrow at 7:00, right, Toya? I will be posting that, but we will be doing Love in the Dark tomorrow. Shout out to Toya. That's her ministry, and it's awesome. And I just wanted to shout her out right there. We are a replica of God. Present yourself in that matter. Absolutely. But the thing that I have to say with that, Miss Liz, that is so true, but a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand what being a replica or image of God even means. Some of us think that we're the scum of the earth. Some people grew up with their mom and dad calling them ugly, telling them they'll never be worth anything, telling them they'll never amount to anything. And when you hear that your whole life, or you hear that your entire childhood, you begin to believe that on a subconscious level. Now, you may build up a wall and say, I know I'm better. I always wonder about, one of the things that I thank God for helping me with is that overachieving mentality, right? Just being an overachiever, just pushing myself too hard. And I realized all of that get understanding. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to gain understanding. And one of the things I realized is I was pushing being an overachiever because of how insecure I was. I didn't think I was good enough, so I had to perform well so that I can prove to myself that I was good enough. But what I did not realize, especially once I gave my life to Christ, I'm saved by grace through faith. I have to, yes, parents are sabotaging their kids. And parents sabotage their kids because they're self-sabotage, right? Hurting people will hurt other people if they don't get it right, right? So for me, I had to realize that, you know what, I can't do anything to be good enough. But I need to show up, and I need to open my heart and allow God to heal me. That's why for almost the first 10 years of my relationship with Christ, it was just about performing, checking off boxes. As long as I go to church, I'm going to read my Bible, I'm going to do this, I'm going to feed the homeless, I'm going to do those things. I was still covering up the insecurity. I was still covering up the thoughts that I had about myself that were not the thoughts that God had about me. And I wouldn't confront them because I was too busy pretending like I was okay, pretending like everything was all right. Hey, Stevie, how you doing? And so that's why I wanted to talk about these things tonight, because a lot of us can't pretend. We can't run from ourselves anymore. Even if you're an essential worker, or if you're someone, I feel like all of us are essential. Let me put that out there. Regardless if your job is open or not, you're essential because you're here and you're alive. Let me put that out there, okay? But I just feel like if you find yourself like, I got to get out of this house, I can't take it, stop and say, why? Why do I feel this way? Like, why am I so uncomfortable in this house? Why can't I stay still? Like, why am I uncomfortable with the quietness in my house? Why do I always have to have something going? Like, deal with that. Why, when I get still, I always have to find something to do? I know a lot of people like that. And usually it's because your hearts are not at ease. Like, your soul is in unrest. And it's time for us to deal with that, right? It's just time for us to confront that. His unmerited favor he gives us and his tender mercies. Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what's so funny? I read that and I would quote that, but I didn't receive that. I had to receive that by faith. And when I started to receive that, that's when my life really started to change. That's when I started to see healing show up in the relationships that I had struggled so much with. I'm so thankful for where I am with my mom and my dad now. I couldn't tell you that 5-6 years ago. I couldn't, but I can tell you that now because of the work that I had to do. Like, I had to allow God to uncover those things I didn't want to deal with. There have been nights that I would journal and cry and just yell out and curse and all of that. Why? Because that's what I was feeling. And I would write it down, but as I was writing it, God would heal me. He would give me understanding. He would give me compassion. Like, I'm angry with these people, but he started to show me a little bit of their hearts and realizing that they weren't trying to hurt me. Good night, Miss Liz. Thanks for being here. They weren't trying to hurt me. They weren't trying intentionally. They hurt me, but they didn't even have the capacity to realize it or to do anything about it because they were hurting so bad themselves. And it's a lot of different nuances, and everybody has a story, and your story is important and your story is valuable. What I will tell you is that Revelations 12:11 tells us that they overcame him, talking about Satan, by the blood of the Lamb and the words of their testimonies, right? And they did not love themselves into death. And so what I'm saying, and the reason why I got on and did this Q&A, shout out to everybody who's brave enough to give me their questions. And, you know, I feel like we overcome by our testimony. Every time I go live, I feel like I'm sharing my testimony. And I know that that's one more step of me overcoming. And it's also helping somebody else do the same thing. So I just want to encourage you where you are to heal. Understand that vulnerability is not necessarily a weakness. It is a strength. And a lot of times people cannot handle you being your authentic self because they've accepted living fake. They've accepted living an inauthentic life, and they get upset with you when you start to do the right thing. You ever notice when you hang with people and everybody doing something bad, everybody's fine, but as soon as one person wants to break away from that, or you think you better, or you think you this, or you think you that. No, I just want better for myself. But a lot of times people will get upset with you for distancing yourself so that you can do better. So that's the last question I'm going to address tonight. You know, when is it okay to separate from family or friends if you feel like it's not healthy? Now. Thank you, Trella. You're great too. Thank you. Now is the time. I don't care. And it's a scripture, and I don't have it with me right now, but it talks about the love of Christ. Listen, that comes before your relationship with your mother, your father, your children, your husband, your wife. Like, that relationship supersedes every other one. And if you're dealing with a toxic relationship, I don't care who that is, you're going to have to find another way to deal with it. And sometimes you're going to have to distance yourself in order to find another way to deal with it. Now, some of us have a history of avoiding things that we need to confront. Some of us have a history of confronting things that we need to avoid. Wherever you are in that spectrum, that's where you are. But what I will say is that it's never good to stay in a space that is toxic for you, just for the sake of, oh, that's my mom, or that's my dad, or that's my brother, or that's my sister. If that person is driving you to hell with gasoline draws on, you need to get off of that boat. You need to get off of that, get out of that car. You don't need to be there. Whoever that person is. Because sometimes people don't love themselves enough to do better. And you have to be willing to love yourself enough to do better. And that means that people may judge you. That means they may talk about you. That means you will be misunderstood. But guess what? You're in good company, because that's what Jesus went through. And tomorrow we're celebrating his resurrection, right? So I just encourage you to take this time to resurrect yourself and your life, and to realize that whatever you've been dealing with, that you know you're better than that, it's okay. Pull away from it. Right? Whatever that means to you. Remember, all of us have different situations. If you've been running from something, it's time to draw near. It's time to confront it. But I truly believe that God speaks to us individually. right? And all he'll do is send other people to confirm what he's already told us. So you got to start trusting yourself. You have to trust yourself enough to start the healing process. And if you don't know how to do that, I'd love to help you. I put a link in the comments if you want to sign up for a heart coaching session. But I just really want you to know that God really loves you. He loves you so much. He wanted me to go live tonight. Hey, Keisha, how you doing? Your realtor. Shout out to LaKeisha. And I just really want to really encourage you to take some time and heal. Don't get caught up. First of all, cut the news off. Stop watching all that stuff. You don't need, what else do you need to see to make you more sick or to make you more upset or to make you more frustrated or to make you more anxious, right? And then secondly, stop running. Stop running from yourself. Stop running from your fears and your doubts and your insecurities. Like, just slow down. Just confront the things that are just running through your mind. Like, some people can't sleep because they can't stop their thoughts. You can. But a lot of times you have to just slow down enough. Like, I encourage you, write them down. That's one of the first things I tell my clients. Anybody ever work with me, they will tell you that I'm going to tell you to journal. You're going to have to journal. Because after you journal, you're going to tell me some things that you didn't even realize prior to you journaling. Right? That's why I believe the Bible in Habakkuk says, write the vision, make it plain. It's not just about dreams and goals. Sometimes we have visions that are haunting us that we need to write so that God can heal it, so that God can give us a new perspective on our lives. So I thank y'all for being here. Anybody have any comments or questions, anything you want to share before I get ready to end this live? I will be going live again. And I'll let y'all know about it. But I wanted to get on tonight before y'all start going to y'all clubs. Y'all better make sure y'all get up for church in the morning too, because I know y'all going to be partying tonight. Make sure you get up and go to church in the morning as well. But I enjoyed this time. Thank you to everyone who has submitted questions. If you would like to have me answer your question on the next Q&A session, if you have something going on in your life and you'd like to get my feedback and my input, you can put it in the comments or shoot me an inbox and I can respond to that. If you'd like to have a more intimate session where we can talk about your things specifically, there's a link in the comments that you can click and sign up for a coaching session that especially for this time, especially as we're going through this difficult time. And I also, if you need something to read, my book, Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, Your Journey to Living and Loving Again, I have a link in the comments where you can download it for only $1. And you can read it on your phone or your tablet or your computer and start this healing process for yourself, because you're not doing anybody any service, any good by choosing to suffer in silence, choosing to live in hell. And I want to encourage you, because you might be the first person in your family that's brave enough to confront the things that have been, oh, thank you, Keisha. I received that in the name of Jesus. We're on our way. Bestseller. Thank you, girl. You might be the first person in your family brave enough to confront those issues, right? You might be the first person in your family to get therapy or to get counseling or to get coaching. Who better than you? Who else than you? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? That's my question. So I just want to challenge you on that. Don't try to drink it away. Don't try to smoke it away. Don't try to sex it away. Don't try to shop it away. Don't try to church it away. Deal with it. And if you need help, I'd love to help you with that. So I love y'all. Do me a favor. Share this with anybody who you think could benefit from it. They can watch the replay. And I love y'all. And I'll be back to talk to you again soon. This is Adelaide Brown, your heart coach, signing out. Good night.